I'd like to welcome everybody, especially if you are new to the virtual chapter, if this is your first meeting. We're really excited. My name is Charlotte Kemp. I am the chapter president for this brand new virtual chapter, which actually officially, technically, splitting hairs, gets instituted at the AGM in a couple of weeks' time at the PSASA annual convention. And I hope that we're going to see lots and lots of you at the annual convention. It really is the highlight of the PSASA year. It's going to be fantastic. Really a great event up here in Gauteng as well. I say up here in Gauteng, although I actually come from Cape Town, and my home chapter is the Cape chapter, and we had our AGM there last night. So it's just that season for us. I'd like to welcome everyone on the call, and I'll get to Richard in a moment, but first let me acknowledge Ian Hatton, as I've said, who is the Deputy President of the virtual chapter, in his car at the moment, for those of you who've just come online. And Ian is a whiz at everything online. He also is the one of the coordinators of the online mastermind for online speakers, which is a phenomenal group of people who are learning how to communicate this way online. I would also like to welcome Carl Schultz, who is here. Hi, Carl. I really like your background there. Carl is our national president of the PSASA up here in the Gauteng area, and he's on the call tonight as well. And I don't see any other of our national presidents. We do have Gavin Novus and Ian Bratt, who are the current deputy president and president and deputy president of the Gauteng chapter. Folks, can I remind you please to put your sound on mute? That'll be really helpful. Thank you. And I don't see any of our Durban folks here, and I don't see any of our Cape chapter folks here. Maybe they've had enough experience this week with all of their chapter meetings as well. All right, let me now get right into this. The virtual chapter is the newest chapter in PSASA. We've got 4 physical chapters around the country: Cape Town, Durban, Pretoria, and Johannesburg. And that is where our members get to meet and connect and learn and share and network and make amazing discoveries and progress in their speaking careers. The online virtual chapter has been designed so that people outside of those immediate physical areas can still have access to each other, and that we can, across the different chapters, get to know each other. Hi, Bruce Page. Can I ask you please to put yourself on mute if you haven't already? Thank you. So the opportunity here is to connect. If you see anybody that looks interesting, then just send them a little private chat in the chat box on the side. Please remember to make it private. You don't want to have a big public conversation. I'm going to welcome Taryn and Leanne and ask you please to put your sound onto mute, please. Thank you. Sorry, let's just try and solve that. All right, I think that's solved. Good, thank you very much. When you have so many people on the call, we actually go onto 2 pages of screen, so it's quite a trick to keep paging through them. So the virtual chapter is here. It's meant for those people outside of those physical areas and in other parts of South Africa and other parts of Africa. And we would very much like to welcome some new members in, people who can't otherwise attend regular chapter meetings. Our intention is not to poach members from our colleagues in the physical chapters, but just to offer an additional service to those people who can't get to them. So if you are not near a regular chapter, a physical chapter, and you'd like to be part of PSA or at least part of this chapter, then please do get in touch with us, either myself or Ian, and we'll have a good conversation about that and see how we can help you and slot you into a mastermind or connect you with other people one way or another, so that you don't feel like you're walking this very exciting journey of being a professional speaker and discovering that all by yourself. Journeys like this are a lot more fun when we share them. All right, I'm not going to speak for too long, and what we normally do at this time is we go around the room and introduce ourselves. But with so many people, we had a record number of bookings today. That would be quite impossible, and frankly, we would be here all night and we would miss the opportunity. We are finding other ways to connect with each other, but we'll do that at another time. I know that we have so many people booked because we really want to hear Richard's message about going from 0 to full fee. I know Richard has a saying that he says the second best day for a speaker is to stand in front of an audience and deliver your message, whatever's in your heart or mind. But the best day is to stand in front of an audience and deliver your message and get paid. And that, I think, is what we are aiming for today. So if you don't know Richard Mulvey, let me start with an introduction for you so that you can understand who he is. Most importantly, for all of you who know me, it's important for you to realize that Richard is my husband, and we have shared a lot of interesting adventures in the speaking world together. I'm just checking who's joined us and who hasn't muted themselves. I apologize. Folks, if I can just ask you, if you just come on the call, please make sure that you're muted. The button is down the bottom left-hand side. It'll make it so much easier for us if everyone is muted to start with. Thank you. All right, so Richard and I have been together for a long time, and we've learned a great deal from each other. But obviously, Richard has been in the speaking industry for a very long time, at least 20 years. He'll give us some numbers, I'm sure. He's spoken to thousands and thousands of people, thousands and thousands of audiences across South Africa, across Africa, and into the Middle East. And he and I are now exploring audiences in Malaysia as well, which is very important to us in developing our speaking business. Richard is a twice past national president of the Professional Speakers Association of Southern Africa. He's also won both awards that PSA offers, the Southern African Speakers Hall of Fame and the Steph du Plessis Founders Award. The first one is for developing a really robust and successful speaking business, and the second one is for service to the industry. And Richard has, been involved with the PSA right from the beginning, and whatever he's learned, he wants to share back with other people. So we really appreciate that spirit of generosity. All right, folks, last chance. Can I ask you again, please make sure that you are muted. Otherwise, it's going to be very difficult for us to hear the message. And in fact, Richard, who is hosting this, I'm going to ask you just to double check if there's a button that will mute everyone. Don't mute me yet. Or if you mute me, unmute me just for a second, please. All right, for those who joined later, just let you know again, I'm the chapter president of the virtual chapter, and I'm hosting the session tonight. But because I'm coming from Johannesburg and my internet connection isn't very good, Richard actually has the hosting of this meeting tonight. So if you do lose me, if I disappear, please don't worry. Richard is a professional. He does a meeting like this every single Tuesday morning, and he can handle it if I disappear. And Ian Hatton is there as well, and Ian can handle things if I disappear, and I'll pop back in later on. And besides which, I already know what Richard's going to say because he and I talked about it, and because he lectures me about it all the time because my fees aren't good enough. And on the way to the airport this morning, he's saying to me, you really need to look at some of those fees of yours. So I will now hand this over to Richard Mulvey and ask him please to share with us his insights about zero to full fee. Thank you, Richard.
Okay, good evening everybody. Who's that making lots of noise in the background? Somebody just joined us making lots of noise on their cell phone, I think. Okay, so good evening everybody. Thank you for that wonderful introduction, Charlotte. That's very kind of you. You said I've been in the business 20 years. Actually, it's 25. You need to brush up on the background. But of course, Charlotte and I haven't been together for 25 years. When 25 years ago, she was still at school. So, I've been around. I've been around as a speaker for many years, and I've put together a program today that I hope will excite you. I've done a huge amount of research on this, more than I normally would do. One tends to, from time to time, just put it together based on my own experience. But in fact, I thought it would be very valuable for all of us to find out what everybody gets paid and see if we can compare what we're doing with other people. Not all that clever, the comparison, of course, and we'll come to that a little bit later on. But you need to know what the sort of standard rates are in the industry. So I approached 25 different people, friends, colleagues around the country, all PSA members, who have been very kindly shared their fees with me. Many of them have said, please keep it to yourself. So I'm not going to tell you individuals and how much they get. Some of them said it doesn't matter, but I've decided just to keep that information to myself. And I will only release it for a very large fee. Speakers have to make money somewhere. So that's what we're going to be looking at today. And I thought probably it's better to share with you some slides. And I will share with you a link to get those slides later on. So please take notes. There will also be time for you to contribute. I'm going to be asking questions, and you can type your answers into the chat box. And I hope Charlotte or Ian will be looking after that for me. So let's press the buttons here and start sharing the slides so we know what we're going to achieve today. Okay. 0 to full fee. That's our challenge today. 0 to full fee. Now, what is full fee? Well, we're going to explore that. But the challenge for us here is to make sure that we are getting the maximum amount of income that we can get from the work we all love to do. Many of us don't get a high fee out of what we're doing, which is a shame because we have to feed our families. And so it's very important to be able to not only do what we're passionate about, but also get paid well for doing it. A pop quiz here. Who's this guy in the bottom right-hand corner? We know it's DiCaprio, but who is he representing? Type into the chat box the person who he was representing in the film. Type the film into the chat box as well. I can't see the chat box from where I am, so you'll have to manage that, you two, between you. Okay, we know the film. I wonder if anybody got the name of the guy who's doing that. Okay, what have we got here in the chat box? Wolf of Wall Street. Yes, absolutely right. But who was DiCaprio representing? Who is the person, the real life person whose life story? Yeah, not bad. Yes, Jordan Balfour. Well done, Louis. Well done. If there was a prize, you'd get it. Of course, there isn't a prize, but nonetheless, well done. Good. Now, the interesting thing about Jordan Balfour is that he is now a speaker. He spent some time in prison, as we know. Please mute yourself, whoever that is. Please mute yourself. He spent a long time in prison, as we know, but he's actually now a speaker. Learns a great deal more than we do, I think, as a speaker. So obviously, a little while in prison may well improve your speaking fees. I'm not suggesting you should do that. But we're going to talk a little bit about that later, because one thing it gives you is fame. And fame will increase your speaking fees dramatically if that's what you want. So, first question for you is this. What are the clients looking for? Imagine you're speaking to a client for doing a keynote or whatever else you do well. What are the clients looking for? Type that into the chat box, please, for me. What are the clients looking for? An expert. Excellent. Thank you. From News. Well done, News, whoever you are. What else? What are the clients looking for? Solutions. Okay, excellent. Value. Good. Well done. They're looking to solve a problem. Problem solving. Inspiration. Yes, quite right. Thanks, Karen. What do we got here? Dean, inspiration. Dawn, entertainment. Yeah, more often than not, fortunately. Granny B, they're looking for me. I don't think so. Michael says motivation, breakthroughs, authenticity. Very powerful, that authenticity. I've often said that authenticity is critical, and as soon as you can fake that, you're made. I think that's tongue-in-cheek, folks. Content is relevant. A free speaker. Dawn, really? A free speaker? No. Values, alignment, excellent stuff, and all very powerful. However, let me just get rid of that. Okay, I can't get rid of that for some reason. However, the one thing that nobody wrote down is a cheap speaker. Audiences are not looking for cheap speakers. And my slides have gone haywire here. Let's go back one. Audiences are not looking for a cheap speaker. Audiences, clients are looking for all of those other things. They don't want a cheap speaker. They want their problem solved. Now, I hear you when the clients start to set a price and tell you that you're far too much money. I understand that, but what we know about clients is that they are good negotiators and very often better negotiators than we are. So they're going to tell you it's too much money. Doesn't necessarily mean you have to lower your fee, and we'll talk about that a bit later on. So another pop quiz here. Who is this guy here, and who is he representing in the movie? Do you remember this guy? Okay, in the chat column again, let's see if we can do this again. Who is this guy? Okay. Too old for you, Rowan. I somehow doubt that, my friend. Too old for me too, said Charlotte. Well, in your case, it probably is. Paul Newman? No. No. Steve McQueen. Steve McQueen. Anybody know the movie he was doing here? Steve McQueen, but what was the movie? Anybody know what movie it is? My favorite, yeah, mine too, actually, Gail. Do you remember The Great Escape? Wonderful movie, Steve McQueen on a motorbike. Fantastic stuff. Yes, he's gambling, but what was the movie, Granny B? Any ideas? What was the movie? I'm with Charlotte. Yes, you probably are too. The movie was The Cincinnati Kid. Look it up. I don't think you'll find it on Netflix. It's probably black and white, but a great movie about gambling. Now the issue with here is, what do you expect to earn? What do you expect to earn this year? Now, we want to change from 0 to full fee, but what do you want to earn this year? What I'd like you to do, and don't put it in the chat box because we're all going to say, you know, 100 million. But what I'd like you to do is write down on a piece of paper, if you have one, or just imagine this. What do you want to earn this coming year? Over the next 12 months, what do you want to earn? Just imagine that figure, whatever it is, 500,000, a million, 10 million, whatever that number is, or 200,000 or 100,000 or 50 rand, whatever you want to earn from speaking, write that number down. Because we need to have a target, I guess. We need to begin to think about a target. Now, what I want you to do is consider, well, what does that mean per month? What does that mean? If you want to earn that for the year, what does that mean per month? And make a note of that figure on that piece of paper that you're taking notes on diligently. And if you're not taking notes, why not? You should be. What does that mean per month? Now you've got an idea of what you need to earn in order to satisfy yourself. Now you divide that monthly figure by the number of gigs you expect to do in a month. And don't be ridiculous and say 20. Nobody does 20 gigs a month. Well, some people do, I guess. But for us mere mortals, how many gigs do you expect to do in a month? 3, 5, 10 if you're very, very busy. Quentin's probably written down 15 because he is very, very busy. Now, that monthly figure, divide that by the number of gigs you want to expect to do in a month, and you've got a target figure for for what you're going to bill your clients. Now, or at least what you want to earn from your clients. The bill will be higher, of course, because you've got to build in costs, and you pay a virtual assistant and your office space and your computers and your internet and your fiber connection, which is coming here in my place on the 1st of May. I'm looking forward to that. Now you've got a target to work for. Now, I'm a salesman. I'm a sales manager, sales director over the years, and I love people with targets. So now you're beginning to get a target. And that target will be what we can start to work with. We're going to increase that. As you go through, you'll see how that works. But that is now your target. So now I want to share with you some figures here, because my guess is your target isn't as high as some of these people have earned in the past. These are big hitters in the past, some of the really big fees, just to whet your appetite a little bit about fees. Donald Trump in 2006, before he was president, Donald Trump earned 1.5 million for a keynote, and then he was booked for 16 more in 2006 at the same fee. Okay, that's 21 million rand for one 50-minute keynote, and then he got 16 more gigs in the same year. Now, that's a nice little earner, and as far as I know, that's the highest fee paid in a year to a speaker. Probably guys like Tony Robbins, who don't share their figures with me, are getting more than that, but that's a huge amount of money. Ronald Reagan. In 1989, he was paid $1 million for a keynote. That's in 1989. That's a long time ago. And when $1 million was $1 million. Tony Blair in 2009 was paid $616,000 US for a gig. And he was offered another gig at $750,000 US the following year, which he turned down because he said he was far too busy to do that. Now that is really cool. I would like to be far too busy and turn down $750,000 US. Bill Clinton, 2006, earned $450,000 US for a gig, and I understand he's still doing the circuit now, speaking circuit, and I understand he gets paid a lot more now. Alan Greenspan, $250,000. Hillary Clinton, Bill's wife there, $100,000 in 2012. Now there's plenty money out there being paid to speakers. What we want to do is have a share of that. The problem with these statistics is this: in order to earn that money, you have got to be famous. There's no way around this. You just have to be famous. And so if you're not famous, you are not going to earn that amount of money. So let's calm down a little bit and let's see what's possible. So what I've done is I've written to over the last few days. I've written to many of my friends and some of those people who wouldn't call themselves my friends, but that's okay too. But most people were very happy to contribute their fees. I did tell them I'm not going to share with you who gets paid what, although some of them said it doesn't matter. But I'm not going to do that anyway. But what I am going to do is give you an idea of the sort of fees that the people on the pictures on the left-hand side are able to achieve. Speaker A gets a keynote $30,000, and Speaker B $49,500 for a keynote. That is the fee. Every one of the people I spoke to, however, apart from one, there's only one person on the left-hand side of the page who didn't say this. Every other one said it's negotiable. And we have all found, and those people in the room who are paid reasonable fees will agree with this, I'm sure. We have all found that it is much more negotiable than it was a few years ago. The clients are really pushing. And then when the client agrees, then it goes to procurement. The procurement department comes back to you and they renegotiate. So it's a challenge for some time. Speaker C, 32,000, Speaker D, 38, Speaker E, 30,000 for a keynote, 75,000 for a keynote for Speaker F. It's up to you to decide which person on the left-hand side of the page gets 75,000, which is really, it wasn't me, I can assure you. Speaker G, 32, Speaker H, 28. So those are the fees that the bigger hitters are able to achieve. Now that's really quite interesting because many of us in the room aren't earning that sort of money. And you have to ask yourself, well, why are they earning more than me? Is it because they're better speakers? Now, everybody on the left-hand side of the page, I have to share with you, they're all damn good speakers. Just one of them is in the room with us today, but they are all very good speakers. Having said that, almost everybody in the room could be a very good speaker, and we're going to talk about how to achieve that in a little while. Okay, so what do the rest of us get paid? I also approached a number of different people who aren't on that big hitter list. And what do you get paid, I said. And then these are the sort of figures that people are getting: 5,000, 15, 3,000, 10, 3,000 to 10. Speaker C, 4.5 to 10. You see the range here. The big hitters say, this is my fee, this is my rate card. The guys like the rest of us are saying, well, how much have you got? You know, because you may say that my keynote fee is 10, but if the client offers you 4,500 Rand and you're not doing anything else today, many of us in this room right now would accept and do the gig at 4,500 Rand. So very interesting. Speaker D, 15K. Speaker F, 0. There's plenty of us here who are just doing it for free right now. Talk about that. It's not a bad thing. And it's bag carrying. We have to go through that. And I'm going to talk about that as we go through here today. So, okay, let's get stuck into this. What do you have to do to earn some money out of this business? What is it you need to be doing? And there's a whole load of stuff that you have to consider here. But the first and most important thing is you have to be a damn good speaker. Now, the good news is that nobody was born a good speaker. When I look back at my videos, and I've been running videos for 24 years out of the 25 that I've been in this business. When I look back at my first videos, I've managed to keep some of those, I'm thinking to myself, well, that was terrible. How come people paid for that when I was doing that? And they did pay quite well. You get better over the years as a speaker. So nobody starts a great speaker. So, but you have to be there. You have to do the bag carrying. You have to perfect your skills. Get yourself a speaking coach. As one or two people in the room, I would redirect you to Chris Voisey. If you want to get your voice right, have a chat to Chris Voisey. He's the man that will help you deliver from a verbal perspective. He's very, very good. Paul DeToy, another one of our members, will help you with your platform skills. So there are people out there who will help you, but you need to be a good speaker. Then, and this is so important, you've got to find your niche. What is your niche? Now, please don't tell me it's the thing that you're passionate about. I know, you've got to be passionate if you're going to be a speaker. But if you're passionate about something that the audiences are not going to pay for, you might deliver a great speech, but your family are going to go hungry. So what you need to do is match what you're passionate about and then find out what it is that the customers are prepared to pay for. Now, I'm passionate about a lot of things, but when I started in this business, my history is that I was a salesperson, sales director, flown out here from the UK as a sales director for a major corporate here in South Africa. And so I've got selling skills, and I always had those selling skills. But I looked at the market. When I started to speak, I looked at the market and I said, where is the most money being spent? Because I was also a director. So I could have talked about leadership. I could have talked about customer services. I could have talked about stress. Trust me, in a corporate position, you learn about stress. But I decided that I would talk about selling. I'm passionate about it, but I decided that because that's where the money was. That is where people are prepared to spend the money to get a keynote speaker to come and speak to their conference at the time. It's a little different now, but that was where the money was at the time. So I focused my passion and what people are prepared to pay for. And you must do the same thing. You may have the best keynote speech about muffin making in the world. But the only people who are ever going to listen to your keynote speech about muffin making are women's groups who don't pay very much, if anything at all. So it was that chauvinistic. Yeah, I'm probably in trouble now. Anyway, just be very careful about it. Find something that the audience is prepared to pay for. Become an expert in that field. Now, nobody's born an expert in anything, so you can become an expert in the field that is your passion. It's said, I'm not sure which author wrote, that if you read 12 different books on a subject, you know more than everybody else in your audience. And this is probably true. You become the expert if you read and absorb 12 books. Now, I don't think it's that simple. And you pick up, over the time you're presenting your programs, you pick up, you develop your expertise here. One of the interesting things, as a bit of a side here, and the experienced speakers in the room will know this, your expertise develops greatly in question time. You hear what people are wanting to hear because that's what their questions are all about. You practice your answers as you deliver an answer, but then you go away a little bit more research. So the next time somebody raises that question, you've got a better answer. And then the next time you build it into your material, because now you begin to focus on what people really care about. Some of my presentations I have done many, many hundreds of times over the last 25 years. And they grow and develop based very much on question time. So be prepared and really enjoy question time. Speak for free as often as possible. Now, there are plenty of gigs out there, and I don't do a lot of free speaking myself any longer. If somebody's got their unmuted, please mute your sound. If somebody on a cell phone, please mute your sound if you can. Speak for free as often as possible. It's the second best day for a speaker is when you're speaking for free. The The first best day, as Charlotte quite rightly said, because she's heard me say this so often, is when you get to speak for your full fee. However, speak for free is
Sorry, Richard, I'm just going to interrupt quickly.
That, you're developing your skills.
Lungile.
Is it Lungile? Switch your sound off.
Please mute yourself.
I switch it off, sorry.
Okay, how are we doing here?
Switch it off.
Right. I think Lungile is now famous. She's presented to 50 or 60 people.
Switch it off.
Either switch
it off now.
Stop talking. All right. So speak for free as often as possible.
Stop.
No, but just keep quiet and you'll be fine, Lungile. So speak for free, which means you do every Rotary Club in your area, every round table in your area, every BNI club, every opportunity. One of my friends in my mastermind group last week said that they had the opportunity to speak to a school 4 times in a row, the same subject, 4 times in a row the same day. That's an opportunity, because you get to hone your skills 4 times in the same day. By the end, the last presentation after 4 times doing the same work is going to be a huge step forward from the first. Look for those opportunities to practice and keep practicing. I still love to practice when I can. Then you want to make some money, pitch like crazy. You want to pitch for every opportunity, every keynote opportunity, every training opportunity. A day without pitching is a day lost. Every day is marketing day. And so you need to look for those opportunities and pitch like crazy. Now, the keynote speakers in the room will know exactly what we're talking about here. There is, I think Michael Jackson did a little bit of a thumb survey to see how many opportunities there were for speakers to speak in South Africa. And if I remember correctly, the figure was over 100,000 opportunities to speak in South Africa. That's 2,000 a week. Is that right? 2,000 a week? 50 weeks in a year, take away the number you first thought of. It's a lot of opportunities. So get onto Google, find out who's having a conference. If they're having a conference right now, then they're also going to be having a conference this time next year. Find your niche and then pitch to them. I'll talk about proposals in a little while, but it's Charlotte's got this wonderful discipline. She's kept it up. So she pitches every single morning, and the principle is here: I don't clean my teeth until I've pitched in the morning. So every day, pitch every single day to somebody somewhere, because you're going to market your business in that way. Now, there are 3 different types of work that you will end up doing: fee, free, or flee. This is a little alliteration here just to remind you of how to balance this out. Now, this is not mine. Fee, free, or flee is Nigel Risner from the UK. He shared this with you, and I'm sure he'll be thrilled to know we're still remembering that and sharing it. What that means is this: if you can speak for a good fee, speak for a good fee. If not, if it's a free opportunity, then ask yourself this: do I identify strongly with the issues involved? If I identify strongly with it, maybe you want to do it for nothing. It's a spin-off work. Am I likely to get more work from the audience in other things? So is there spin-off work? Is there opportunity to expand your client list? When you speak, you should be getting, we'll mention this later, but you should be getting the contact details of everybody in the room if you can. I'm going to share with you how to do that. But it's important because your next best customer is sitting in that room somewhere, and you have to be able to have their contact details so you can keep in touch via LinkedIn, via email marketing, and all sorts of other ways. So if you can expand your client list, you do it for free, but you might have 100 new contacts, and that's worth doing. You might want to practice your material here. You're developing a new keynote, or you're a new speaker, you have the opportunity to speak for free, then take it, practice your material. You might want to sell your products here. Now, when I first started in my first year, one of the things I did, and not because I'm clever, just because I thought it was the right thing to do, was I wrote my first book. This was in year 1 of my 25 years of speaking. I wrote a book. My book was about presentation skills because I thought I was pretty good at that. Look, it was a dreadful book. I still have 400 copies if anybody wants one. Anyway, the point was this. Having written that book, when I went to speak for free, I took my book with me and then was able to sell a copy of my book, and many copies in some cases of my book, which meant that speaking for free was no longer free. There were opportunities to make money there. So maybe you speak for free, but you've got the opportunity to sell your products at the back of the room. I've got over 100 now different products, books, DVDs, audios, and all sorts of other things. So when I have the opportunity, if there's an audience of 200 or 300, I know I'm going to make a decent return just by people buying my books and DVDs on the back of the room. So build the products up, and you can make a good living that way. Maybe you want to sell your programs. Plenty of speakers out there who speak for free, but they want to sell their programs, their coaching programs, their training programs. All of those things are very powerful and good money earners. So they go to a gig, speak for nothing. In fact, Steve Lal was telling me that in the States, some speakers actually pay for the opportunity to speak at a particular gig because that is their market. The people in that gig are their target market. So they pay for the opportunity to speak in sizable fees because they want to be able to sell their programs at that event. Now, if you do speak for free for any event, this is a very useful tip that I got many years ago. One of the conventions I went to, international conventions, I forget which one now, and I forget which person gave me this tip, but it's powerful. When you do speak for free, you still issue an invoice to that client with your full fee rate and then show 100% discount. So they don't have to pay anything, but they do know that this would be your full fee rate. So it's important to get that in place, because now when they don't think you're a free speaker, they think that you would normally charge them 15K. And this, you're giving them 100% discount, so they're very pleased. But when other people come to them and say, that was a good speaker, how much does he or she charge? You know that they will say, well, he charges 15,000 Rand for this gig. They were lucky to get the 100% discount, but you wouldn't necessarily give that to anybody else. So issue a fee with a discount. Or the last one is flee. Turn it down. If none of those things for a free gig works for you, don't do it. Don't do it. Okay, so we talked about pitching. It's very important to get this right. A pitch a day keeps the bank at bay. More alliteration. I hope this works for you. But remember that pitching is very, very important.
Sorry to interrupt.
Sue, follow good. I think your microphone's on. If you could switch it off, that would be really cool. Okay, good.
Thank you.
Nice to see you, Sue. Well done. Thanks for coming along. Anyway, back to this. Where are we? Oh, yes. A pitch a day keeps the bank at bay. So you should pitch every day. You want to be a busy speaker, then get busy. In one of my books, my early books, we talked about opportunity, and people often say to me, there's no opportunity here. Rubbish. There's huge opportunities. But the basic principle here is action is the mother of opportunity. If you don't take the action, you're not going to find the opportunities that there are out there. So pitch every day for something, for a keynote, for a free gig, for something, every single day. I know many of us in the room have also got a proper job. And those of you who know me well, I will tell you, and I'll tell you now, if you want to be a keynote speaker, you want to be a big speaker, give up your day job. You can only do one thing well. But even those of us who have got a proper job, please pitch every day anyway. Have some standard pitching stuff. You pitch it out there. We're going to talk about how to do that in a while, but pitch every day. Find an opportunity. Find a list of those people you're likely to want to speak to. Only 25% of people you pitch to will bother to reply. So 75% will just get your pitch and go straight in the bin. Only 15% will ask for a proposal. 10% you may even get. Now, these are figures based upon what Charlotte's getting right now. But it's important to understand that selling is a numbers game. That's the way it is. And I will share this with every salesperson I ever get to speak to. The more numbers you have, the more times you pick up the phone, the more likely it is you're going to get business. You cannot say there are no opportunities left in South Africa when you're sitting in the pub on a Friday afternoon complaining how bad business is in South Africa. You can't do that. If business is bad, it's probably because you're not picking up the phone often enough and making enough phone calls. So picture A, very important to get that right. So your proposals. Now, how am I doing for time, by the way?
Richard, just before you continue.
Okay. Somebody's chatting again in the background.
Richard, just before you continue,
yes.
Gail's asking, who do you pitch to?
Okay, good question. I was going to come to that, but let me answer that now. You have to do the research. Good question, Gail, and thanks for interrupting in. That's good, the right way of doing it. You have to do the research. So, what's your target market, Gail? You want to actually, Gail, if you turn your sound on, you could tell me what's your target market, and then we'll try and explore how you can find out who you pitch to. Gail, can you turn your sound on? Okay, apparently not. Okay, so if you can type it into the chat box, Ian, if you can help me what Gail's target market is. But let me give you an example of, I have a different approach. I'm not doing a lot of keynotes. Most of my work is training, and I have a very big database of past clients. So most of my work is those past clients. I appreciate new speakers don't have those past clients. Charlotte, who's new and not as a new speaker, but over the last couple of years, she's now become a futurist. Studied at Stellenbosch, and now she's ready to pitch every day. What she's done is to find a list of all of the associations, because that's a target market. She has a list of many thousand associations in Southern Africa, and so it's very easy. Just go down the list, A through to Z, and pitch to those people. Question is, where did you get that list? Well, she's built it up over a period of time. First thing you do is type into Google associations in Southern Africa. So you get a whole list of associations, and you wade your way through. There's no simple answer to this. That you can buy databases, but you know what? It depends on what you're doing, what business you're in. You can certainly buy databases of business in South Africa and search, for instance, for industry. You want to work in the metal industry. You want to teach salespeople in the metal industry. Not too difficult. You can buy a database of companies in South Africa. And track that database down into the metal industries. You'll find that there's probably 5,000 different companies in South Africa who work with metal, and from the big ISCOR all the way down to the local place, and you have to go through, you have to wade through it. There's no, as far as I know, there's no easy answer to who to pitch to. It's just you have to do the research. And you have to do the hard yards. Now, once you've got that list, then it's obviously much easier. You build a spreadsheet with those people, and you make sure that you can pitch to those people. Gail, I'm not sure what industry you're in or what industry you're focusing on, but whatever industry that is, type it into Google, do the research. This is one of those areas where you go beyond page one. You actually have to go beyond page one of Google to find all of the industries you want to do business with. Then you list them, you research them, and I know you come to my sales meeting on a Tuesday morning, 8:15, little plug there, and I'm going to tell you a little bit about that, everybody a bit about that later, because it's worthwhile to come. It's free. I think it's planned for next month. We're going to be looking at the dynamic dozen and the approach that we have to find. Once we've got somebody to pitch to, we're going to be able to find out information about those before we actually do the proposal. But I hope that's answered your question. If not, send me an email and I'll give a much better answer. Ian.
Okay, Richard, we do actually have a reply now from Gail. She says senior HR in organizations with IT. Okay,
that's much easier. Senior HR is much easier to hunt down. There are two organizations that I can think of straight off the top of my head who do HR functions, and they're always looking for speakers. HR Works is one of them, and I can't think of the name of the other one. Charlotte perhaps know the name of the other one. In any event, they're always looking for speakers, and they have regular breakfasts. They won't pay you, but the audience is HR practitioners. Now, HR is not an area I sell to, so I haven't taken too much notice of building up an HR database. I know the decisions often come through HR, but most of my customers are sales managers, sales directors. Those are the people I personally go for. But it's not difficult to find associations that represent human resources. So dig them down, do the research, find the names of those companies you want to do business with, and approach them. I hope that's helped, Gail. And in fact, I know that you probably do that already, and it is hard work. And yes, there's no easy solution to this. There's no shortcut, as far as I know. If anybody knows of a shortcut to find who to pitch to, let me know. I'd be thrilled to find out. Okay, all right. So now your proposal. Now, the first thing we have to understand is a proposal that you're going to send to a client is a little bit, it has some similarities to a proposal for marriage. Now, this is something that I've done on a number of occasions, those people who know me. Actually, I'm very good at marriage. I really am. I've done it hundreds of times. However, a proposal for marriage, you don't just look at somebody, find somebody you like, and offer them your hand in marriage. That ain't gonna work. You have to court them, and it's very much the same as doing a proposal for a company that you want to pitch to. You cannot expect to just look for a company and then send them a brochure, because it's not going to work. Well, much less likely working. What you need to do is find out as much information about that company in advance. Then you phone them. So when companies, and it often happens to me, somebody sends me an email and says, Richard, please give me a quote for sales training for our team of 25 salespeople. I will not give them a quote. I'll pick up the phone straight away. The moment I get it, and time's critical here, the moment I get that email, I'll pick up the phone and ring them. And then I want to court them. I want to talk to them. So they'll say to me, okay, Richard, how much do you charge? And I said, you know, my price range is very broad, and it really does depend upon the requirements of you, the client. So tell me, Mr. Customer, what are you looking for? What are your objectives of the sales training you're looking for? What do you want to achieve? What is your long-term goal? What are your targets? How are you doing against your targets right now? Who are your competitors? Are they performing better than you right now? Why is that? What's holding you back? So for me, there's a range of about 30 questions that I will always ask a potential client. Now, the reason for that is twofold. Is the more information I get, the more likely it is I'm going to be able to build a proposal that's going to really zoom in on their requirements. But also, it gives me the opportunity to court them. I'm asking the sort of questions they probably haven't even considered themselves. By the end of that first phone call, I want them to be thinking, I want Richard Mulvey to come and do our sales training. You know what? I know there are other sales trainers out there. It's quite a competitive market. But there aren't too many that actually do make the phone call, do the courting before they send in a proposal. And that's what's important here if you want to seriously grow your business and charge those serious fees out there. So the other thing that I have a particular bugbear about proposals is far too often we get it wrong. When a proposal isn't just a matter of sending a client the fee. Of course, we have to tell the client what it's going to cost him, but there are ways in which you do it. And a proposal, your proposal structure should look something like this. You start off with the client's objectives. So you would say in the beginning of your proposal, dear Mr. Customer, further to our conversation, I understand that this is what you're trying to achieve. And you outline the objectives. Then you outline as much detail as you picked up in that phone call. And that detail can be 2-3 paragraphs long. And the purpose of this is to let the client know that you really listened to that conversation and you care about the client's problems. The first rule of selling is don't expect the customer to care about you unless you care about them first. So you demonstrate with the client's objectives that you care about the client's problems. Then, of course, you're going to talk about your recommendations. Now, your recommendations are the way in which you're going to solve that client's problem. you've discovered why or what keeping him awake at nights, your recommendations are going to help him sleep at nights. Then you want any additional benefits. Not only, Mr. Customer, are we going to be able to do this for you, but also these other things will also come on board at the same time. Now, one of the things that I offer when I do sales training courses is that I have a micro learning program, a 52-week, 104 video clip micro learning program that is already completed and on board and online. So when a client asks me to do their sales training for their team, I can say, well, you'll get this, but you'll also get free of charge, or I'll charge for it, and we'll look at pricing in a little while, this 52-week micro learning program to reinforce those skills that we talked about in that 2 or 3 day training course. So there are additional benefits that you offer. Now, we still haven't talked about price just yet. The next thing is to offer your financial implications. Now, of course, the customer wants to know what it's going to cost, but it's a very useful thing to put in the financial implications what the customer will make out of what it costs. So you ideally want to have put in there the return on the investment the customer is going to make from taking you on as a trainer or a speaker. The return can be quantified in many cases. So find some way to make the financial implications look pretty good. You may, for instance, if you're doing a keynote for 1,000 people in the room, divide your fee by the number of people in the room, and it only comes out to a few rand per person for all of the in-depth information you're going to share with those people. Also, you can, if it's a big event, you can compare your fee, for instance, to the cost of catering. Because I tell you what, you're going to be a hell of a lot less than they're going to pay on teas and coffees for a huge convention and conference. And you just put your fee there in context with everything else that they're spending. Remember this. The client does not want a cheap speaker. That's not what they want, despite what Dawn said earlier on. They don't want a cheap speaker. They want a good speaker because their reputation as a client is based upon getting the best speaker in there. Now, sure, of course, they don't want to go over budget, and we'll look at that in a bit, but that's their reputation on the line there. They don't want a crap speaker. I can't say that. They don't want a terrible speaker. They want a good speaker first. And the price comes afterwards, but good speaker is first. They want the job done. So the financial implications, then finally you'd put in any additional information you need to put in. Dates, times, specifications, you know, additional information, travel costs, flight, all that sort of thing. One interesting issue here about flights, and everybody has a different way of doing this. With one of the keynote speakers, the high flyer keynote speakers I talked to, he builds his international flight costs into his fee, which is interesting because I don't do that. I always separate out my flight costs because very often the flight costs will come from a separate budget. So this is my fee, and you will obviously have to pay for a return airfare from Cape Town to wherever it happens to be. I don't charge them business class airfares, although one or two of the big hitters that I mentioned earlier on do actually charge business class airfares as well for international flights. I haven't been able to bring myself to do that. Occasionally get it, but hey, not often, and not for a couple of years now. That's a British couple of years, I mean 2, not a South African couple of years, which could be a never-ending figure. Okay, so that's a proposal. Build your proposal around that. And what I suggest you do, if you really want to get this right, put yourself together a draft proposal, email it to me, and I'll be happy to comment. I'll be happy to comment on your, I'll try and be nice. So email it. If you want, in my opinion, email it to me, and I may be able to help you. Never know. Okay, there's another way of looking at this, and it's called the 3-option proposal. Again, I picked this up at one of the international conferences and convention that I went to. And by the way, if you haven't booked yourself for our convention this year, really, what are you thinking? Get out there, spend the 5,000 Rand, get to the convention, because it is the best way to grow your business. You want to be a full fee speaker, borrow the money, go to the bank, borrow the money, and come to the convention, because I tell you what, you will go away from there with a much better idea of how you're going to make plenty money out of the speaking business. My little punt there for the convention. You'll find me there and many of the other people in the room. Okay, so 3-option proposal is this. If you want to get a speaking fee, then we will generally, the customer says, what's your fee? And then you respond in the same way as I mentioned earlier on your proposal. However, another way of looking at this is giving the customer a choice of 3 different fees. And the 3 should be, option 1 is your very basic package. Option 2 would be your preferred option, and option 3 would be all the bells and whistles and all the rest of it. Now, I'll give you an idea of what that would be in my case. So option 1, the basic package, would be the cheapest thing would be to buy one of my DVDs and show that at your event, and that would cost you 375 Rand to buy the DVD and show at the event. Nobody ever wants that, but that would be the basic. Then your preferred option would be, in my case, doing the keynote for the client, a 50-minute keynote. He pays my full fee, return airfare, and sometimes overnight stay, depending on where it is. Now, that would be my preferred option. All the bells and whistles, however, would be probably 2 or 3 times the price of the mid-range option. And that would include maybe one of my new books for every member, every delegate in the room, maybe a DVD, signing up to my business academy, a 6-month, every person in the room gets 6 months to go through and review my business academy, or online academy, or all of those different things you can package. Maybe it's a workshop with the C-suite the following morning to make sure that everybody gets these things into place. Maybe it's a keynote in the morning or a workshop in the afternoon. Whatever the client wants, maybe that would be all the bells and whistles option. Now, in my experience, clients don't normally go for 1 or 3. They have a midway, which is the one I would prefer them to buy. And that's what they normally go for. And it's quite interesting that. Now, sometimes a client will say, well, I'd like option 2, but is it possible to have a book for every member of the people in the room? Sure, there'll be an additional charge, of course, but not as much as option 3, just an additional charge on option 2. So now, what in addition to all of that, we've got a negotiation. We can negotiate around these things, and those people who have been coming to my sales meeting, free webinar, Tuesdays, 8:15. Have I mentioned that already? Well, no, for the last 4 weeks, we've been talking about negotiation skills and how do you get a better solution out of this. And what you need to be doing is to bring more things into the negotiation, make the pie bigger so you've got more to work with. Now, I'm delighted to sell a book to every member of the room. The book, the full price for my new book is 250 Rand, but it only cost me 30 or 40 Rand, I think, to produce. So it's a good money earner, but there's flexibility. If the full price is 250, I'm happy to give it to the client at 175 for everybody in the room, and I'm still earning 135 out of that sale for everybody in the room. So I'm happy, the client's happy, perfect win-win. So look at that 3-option approach. Try it out. Again, if you're not sure, put something together and email it to me, and I'll put you on the right direction if I can. Okay, so speaker bureaus, my favorite subject. Those of you who know me well know that this is not actually my favorite subject, but I'm going to share with you about speaker bureaus. Because, you know, you go into the speaker business and you see all those bureaus out there and they book speakers. So what do? We write to them and say, we send them an email and say, I'm a really good speaker. You need to book me for your next event. And they say, yeah, right, okay. They get probably each of them, and I know some of these speaking bureaus very well, they will tell you they get 15 or 20 emails like that every week. You don't stand out any more than anybody else does. So as a new speaker, I remember very well, 25 years ago, a new speaker, so I approached one of the speaker bureaus on the right-hand side, the right-hand column there on that slide. I approached one of them and said, you know, I really am a good speaker. You should use me at your next event. They wrote back kindly, the others didn't, but they wrote back saying, you must have a video, I'm sure. Send me your video. Now, I didn't have a video. So I quickly got an audience together, recorded the video, sent it to them, and I'm still waiting to hear from them. So that was it. Now, I probably wasn't very good, and that I guess is the point 25 years ago. But what I did discover is that the audience members who saw me recording a video wanted to buy the video. And a huge part of my income over the last 25 years has been from selling videos and then DVDs. So I did learn from that. I'm not all that stupid. I do pick up things as I go along. And I would recommend that you video everything you do. You never know when you might be able to turn it into a saleable product. We'll talk a little bit more about that in a while. What are we doing for time here? Okay, I think I've got another 10 minutes or so. If I haven't, Ian, please stop me if I'm running over. You just have to stop me. And good luck with that. All right, bureaus. Let's get through this. Firstly, a bureau. What the bureaus care about is their clients. They don't care about you because it's the clients who pay their bills. So there are plenty speakers out there, but very few clients. So they care about their clients, and you can't blame them for that. I absolutely support that. They have their clients. The client wants a speaker. They look in their books. They've got 5 or 6 speakers, 10 or 12, or maybe 20 speakers who can speak on that subject that the client wants. So if you, just because you speak on that subject, unless it is really unique, the chances are that you're probably not going to get the bureaus to book you. I know some of us in the room do. Quinton, I'm sure, gets speaker bureaus to book him. And some of us in the room do, but I don't very much. If I get 4 gigs a year from the bureaus, it's a lot. And I see that I'm on the latest USB magazine here. Got double-page spread. No, I didn't pay for it. But you know, they don't give me a lot of business. So they care about their clients. You can't blame them for that. That's the business they're in. They will not help you grow your business unless they really like you, unless they see something in you that's really unique and different. They're not going to help you grow your business. You've got to grow your own business. You've got to develop your own gigs. So not until you're famous. When you're famous, the bureaus will chase you down and they'll pay you nice high fees. So if you want the bureaus to chase you, get onto the first, the South African rugby team, or play for the Proteas, or win a Grand Slam at tennis, or get yourself booked as the lead role in the next Leo DiCaprio movie. If you do that, the bureaus will chase you down. Otherwise, forget it. Oh, mind you, politicians, it might be easier to become a politician, but then you have to get really high up the list if you want the bureaus to chase you down if you're a politician. So they're not going to do that. So what do? We don't wait for the bureaus. We set up our own events. And I discovered this very early on, and I've been running my own events for 25 years. Because the bureaus don't book me, I'm going to find audiences in another way. I spoke to Nikki Bush. Now, Nikki is, I'm a great fan of Nikki. She's a great speaker. And she shared with me that when she started, I think 10 or 12 years ago, she started by having audiences around her dining table. She got 8 or 10 people around her dining table, and she was able to help them grow and develop whatever she speaks about, which is she speaks about children and parenting and all that stuff. So she started in that way. Then it got bigger, so she moved into a lounge to have bigger audiences. Do the same. Build your own audiences. Build your own contacts. It's very important to understand that you're not going to grow in this business just waiting for people to come to you. You have to sell. You have to be a good marketer and sell yourself. So there are different ways of making money as speakers, of course. And you'll see on the right-hand side there, I've got a stack of 500 Rand notes. How many people in the room have got 500 Rand notes, I wonder? That is actually, if you're interested, that is actually a real South African 500 Rand note. They didn't actually mint any of these, but when they had the new notes a couple of years ago, they decided they might have a 500 Rand note, so they designed it, but they didn't print any, which is a shame, because I mean, 500 Rand doesn't last very long nowadays, does it? So anyway, that's a little bit of an aside there. So where do we make money? You've got a gig, there's lots of other things you can do. The first one and the most important one and the one that's really supported me over the last 25 years is back of the room sales. Very often I make more money selling at the back of the room than I get paid to be in the front of the room. And that's just the way it is, because I've got over 100 different products and I've been developing for them for over the years. There's DVDs, there's books, there's audios, and you know what? It's not difficult to produce these. How do we do it? Very simply. Get yourself a decent camera, put it on a tripod at the back of the room, and film yourself doing whatever it is you do well. You need to have an audience. If you don't have an audience, you're just doing a talking heads thing in front of a camera. It doesn't work. But if you have an audience, you can film that yourself. For me, it's normally a 3-camera shoot. So you have 2 on the speaker, 1 permanently on the audience, then you edit it, you put it together, you have the software on your computer for free that will do very good editing. If you've got an Apple, it's an iMovie. If you've got a PC, it's, I forget, Movie Maker, okay. And it's very easy to do. Learn the skills, film it, edit it, put it together. The next time you have a gig, you copy it onto a DVD, you put it in a nice case, you put it in the back of the room, and the DVD to put together will cost you about 20 Rand. You sell it for 300 Rand or 200 Rand, a very nice little earner. And it's just you speaking at your last gig. DVDs are so powerful. Still now, people are buying my DVDs, which is really cool. One set of DVDs, 4 DVDs that I put together for a client 3 or 4 years ago, this was. He asked me to do a roadshow for his customers. No, for his company. He had, they sell carpets. So he had shops all around the country, and I did a roadshow for him. On the 3rd event in Johannesburg, we had 120 people in the room. And I said to the client, why don't you let me film this? I'll edit it, and then I'll just charge you 20,000 Rand for a copy of your event. Then you never have to invite me back. You've got this, you can send to all your people who couldn't make this event. So they were happy to do this. They spent the money on me recording a video, and I asked them, would you mind if I also sell it to my customers? They were happy because it's marketing their shops. And now it's one of my biggest sellers. It's called Selling for the Small Business Entrepreneur. I sell it for 1,095 Rand, 4 DVDs, a full-day sales training course for small business entrepreneurs. Very, very simple to do. So once you've got that, once you've got a recording, you can convert that into an audio. So suddenly you've got MP3s being developed that you can sell. Or you've got, you can break it down for your podcasts. Once you've recorded this stuff, you can do lots of different things with it. One of the things you can also do with it is to take the text of your presentation and turn it into a book. An hour's presentation will probably be around 8,000 to 10,000 words. Now, with a little bit of editing, that's an 8,000 or 10,000 word small pocket book. So there's lots of things you can do with it. Please record everything you do. Get into the habit of recording everything you do. And other stuff. At the back of the room, there's all sorts of other things you can sell. Jürgen Tietz was the master, is the master of the back of the room sales. He's just brilliant at it. All sorts of different things, packs of cards. In fact, he manufactured 2 balls, wooden balls on string that you hold up, and he called them decision-making balls. And he sold these things for hundreds of Rand. How to do it, I don't know. But people buy. You see, the idea here is that if they like you as a speaker, they'd love to take you home. But they can't take you home, but they can take home something that you've produced, a book or a DVD or an audio tape. They can take that home. Now, they're probably not going to read your book. I doubt whether 10% of the people who've bought my books actually read them. I don't mind, so long as they pay money for them. It's fine. They want a part of me to take home. And that works. So back of the room sales. Upselling training programs. Get people in a room and then upsell them training programs. I run a road show every month called the Power Series. And much of my training comes from spin-offs, from people who come to the breakfast sessions, the road show. Then they say, come and train my team. And that upselling from training programs works very well for me. You can do coaching. I don't do coaching. I can't stand it personally, but many of you do, consulting. You can get your employer company to sponsor you as a speaker. If you still have a proper job, try to get your employer company to sponsor you to speak on one thing or another, whatever that happens to be, I don't know. You can get other organizations to sponsor you. If you've got a really powerful message, then other organizations can sponsor you. I know that some of the speakers have all their computers sponsored, or cameras sponsored, or all sorts of other things sponsored. Because, you know, every time we stand up and speak, we open up a computer, the audience can see, in my case, that it's an Apple computer. No reason why Apple shouldn't be sponsoring my computers. Anybody know anybody in Apple? So there are plenty of opportunities as a speaker to earn money. But the main thing you have to do here is to change your mindset. Very important to understand that if you're a zero-fee speaker, it's probably because of your mindset. Of course, you've got to be a good speaker, but you've got to get your mindset right here. There are plenty of people out there who are just as good speakers as you are, who are charging good money for what they're doing. You've got to begin to trust your own judgment. So, said it earlier on, be a good speaker. If you're not, become a good speaker. Get to a mastermind group, join a mastermind group, and get them to be honest about your speaking skills. But once you've got a good message and you're a good speaker, change your mindset that says you should only be charging $3 grand a day. It's your mindset that's holding you back. Chris Voisey, who's in the room here, thanks for coming along, Chris. He sent me an email, and we had a long chat about it on Monday at the PSA meeting. Short chat, but a chat nonetheless. And Chris, you were telling me that you know, you don't charge very much for schools, and of course schools can't afford very much. And that is our mindset, and I was agreeing with you. That's our mindset. Schools can't afford very much, so we don't charge them very much. Since our meeting, I've spoken to somebody who we mentioned earlier on, who speaks to schools all the time. And their price to a school, a keynote to a school, is $17,500, and they're busy. So please, we need to change our mindset. Now, Chris gets on at me. He says, you can't just tell people to double their fees. Well, you know what? I can, actually. I can, because most of us aren't charging enough. Most of us believe that we're not worth it. So we have to begin to change our mindset. Now, I'm working closely with Charlotte, obviously. And over the last few years that we've been together, she's doubled her fees twice. Now, I know she will tell you, yes, but there's new material and all sorts, and all of that is true. Yes, she's probably a better speaker than she was a couple of years ago. Yes, that's true. Now, nonetheless, she will be the first to tell you it's a mindset thing. And we really battle. When she says to me, what should I charge? And she tells me what she thinks, I say to her, no, no, no. We push it up every time. So the next time she pitches for something, she tells me, what should I charge? It goes up again. Now, the interesting thing about that, before I get into too much trouble here, the interesting thing about that is that while your existing clients know what you currently charge, most of your business will come from new clients who have no idea what you charge. So you can easily charge one fee for an existing client, but pitch for a higher fee for a new client. They don't know you've put your fee up. They have no idea. It's in your head mostly, the fact that we don't charge as much as we perhaps should be. Another one of the keynote speakers who was chatting to me about fee told me, this is my fee. I know I don't charge enough. Why the hell not? Put your fee up. Charge more. This particular speaker knows he's a busy speaker, but you're right, you don't charge enough. So put your fees up and see how it goes. And your new clients don't know. You are the one holding back your fee. It's a psychological thing. Now, I'm already in trouble with this. I know some of you will argue with me, and that's okay. I'm happy to listen to your arguments here. Couple of last quick things. How are we doing for time? Okay. All right. Quickly, your database. You've got to build your database. You have your clients. Collect everybody's contact details. You've got an audience in there. Collect their contact details. You need to be able to pitch to them next time round. You can do that by having a business card drawer. Evaluation forms, very powerful. Now, people have evaluation forms when I speak. I don't care what they think. I've heard it all before. No, I do care. I honestly do care. But what the evaluation form is for to get their email address and permission to market to them. Ask for the list. You got a free gig. You'll say, I'm happy to do it for free, but I really need to have the list of the attendees to be able to make contact with them. Promise a white paper. Charlotte does that a lot and gets, you know, if you want the white paper, more details on this particular subject, follow this line. You go to my website. You have to put in your email address and we'll email you the white paper. You also need a good CRM system, customer relationship management. There are plenty out there. Make sure it's in the cloud. Make sure you have access to it all the time. There's some really good free ones as well. Have a look around. Make contact every month. That's the key issue here. You cannot do business if you're not making contact with your customers. Regular contact. My customers get emails from me every month. And yes, some of them unsubscribe. And yes, I put new ones on the list. And that's okay too. Keep that contact going because when they're looking for a speaker, you're going to be the one that's top of their mind. Okay, so if you want some more of me, and who would want more, then come to the sales meeting. Have I mentioned that? Every Tuesday at 8:15. It's a free webinar. It's a 30-minute webinar, and we repeat it again at 6 o'clock in the evening. This is all you have to do to become part of that team. And I know there's a number of people who've attended today who are also attending that free webinar. There's a bit.ly code, the_sales_meeting_registration. And if you follow that link, and if you're not sure about it, you can email me on richardmulvey.biz, richard@richardmulvey.biz, or take a note of that link. Come to the sales meeting. We have a lot of fun, but we also, each week, we learn a different thing about selling. Okay, and all right, question time before I summarize here. Question time. I'm going to get into trouble if I don't say question time. So, questions. Anybody got any questions before I breeze into a summary at the end here? Let's stop sharing here. And questions. Okay, Gail strongly, in capital letters, recommends a sales meeting. Thank you, Gail. How does training rates differ from speaking rates? Okay. Yeah, that's interesting. Keynote speaking. Steph Duplessis said he does keynotes. If they want training, he just speaks slower. And, they do differ, but you know what? I charge for a keynote a fee, and for my training day, it's probably about 80% more than a keynote fee. So a keynote fee, and then plus it up if I'm going to do a master class or a training day. That's different if I run my public training courses. I charge 5,480 Rand per head for a 2-day course. That's about average, I think. I haven't put that up for a while, and maybe it should go up. But I managed to get people on board for a training course. Now, at that price, 5,420, if I get 10 people in a room for a training course, that's 54,000 Rand, which is actually quite a nice earner for a 2 days' work. I don't know what you normally charge, but that works quite well for me. And it's a training, so it's not as high-powered as keynotes. I like to do the keynotes, of course, but training, you get closer to the people. Do you charge for workbooks? No, if I'm doing a training course, I will give them workbooks. Roger, we posted this above. I'll have one-page CRM. Yes, Charlotte, thank you. Dead easy, not expensive. Turns your CRM into a section list. Also, Pipe Drive. Charlotte uses one page. I use Aptivo. You'd think we'd have one system that worked for both of us, wouldn't you? But we don't. So there you go. Thank you very much. Any other questions here? Hello, Leeds is also great from Lee. Thank you. Taryn Lee. Ooh, thank you, guys. Now I can hear Taryn saying that. Don't you love it? Well done, Taryn. Okay, what else here? Any other questions? Any other questions anybody would like to ask? Comments? Before I breeze into a summary. How far, okay, how far should we reduce our fee to get the job? Okay, and somebody, Gail uses Soho. Soho's good, yes, Gail. How far should you reduce the fee? That's like how long is a piece of string? Now, some speakers will say, look, if I'm sitting at home, I might just as well be out and earning 2,000 Rand. I don't see that. When I'm at home, I value my hometown, and I also value the opportunity to work and to develop new material and edit videos and all sorts of other stuff. So I value my time higher than that, but you must make a choice. If you're negotiating for a particular gig, I would much prefer you adding things in rather than reducing a fee. So find out what the client or customer really cares about and add in additional stuff, books or further training or workshops or consulting or coaching or follow-up sessions or additional online training, whatever else works for that client. Because you know what, the more you explore, the more you'll discover that those clients value those things as well. So I would rather not go down too far. It's up to you. You've got to make the decision for yourself, of course. But I'd rather give better value for the client. The client doesn't want a cheaper fee. The client wants better value. And I appreciate there are some clients out there who just wants it low. There are some of the training companies out there who are going to offer you 3,500 Rand a day, and it doesn't matter what you offer them. They've heard it all before, and they can get 10 other speakers out there who will do it for 3,500 Rand a day. So you choose. Do you want to do it? Or you don't want to do it. For me, I don't do it. But you must make a choice. If you want to do it, fine. Any other questions here? Does your fee include the venue hire and meals for the participants of your training? Absolutely, it does. But I negotiate very hard for venue hire. It depends on the hotel that I'm doing training in around the country, wherever that happens to be. But on a 5,450 Rand fee that I'm charging the client plus VAT, about 600 or 700 of that will be the venue hire, meal costs, and all the rest of it. So there's still a nice income out of it. Any other questions? What microphone do you recommend for your DVDs and speaking? Okay, that's a very good question. I have a Logitech microphone that works very well for me. The Shure microphone I use for the videos. So the microphone I've got costs, I think, 6,500 Rand. So your sound is very important. Now, you can record the sound, if you're clever enough, record the sound with a lapel mic on your cell phone. Quite good recordings, actually, if you're clever enough to add that on and lip sync with the video afterwards. But that really does take some hard work unless you're using a decent program like Final Cut, which is what I use. There are some good microphones out there. The fact is, you pay your money and you take your choice. If you're going to have a good microphone to record, it's going to cost you probably 5,000 Rand, what I spent on my Shure what are they called? Countryman mic, the one that comes around your face. Any other questions? How do you respond?
Richard, there was one about local versus international speaking.
Okay,
and
good question.
Prices.
Thanks for raising that. All I mentioned here is local prices. So the subject matter was 0 to full fee. And for those people who are on 0 right now, you're probably not going to do a lot of international speaking. However, the international prices are much higher, much, much higher. If you're speaking in the States, Australia, and Europe, then you're going to probably multiply your local fee at least by 3 and maybe more. So my international rate for speaking is $4,500 US for a keynote, and I'll charge them the same for a day, because if I'm international, I've got to have to be there for the day. I don't charge for my travel time. I know some of the speakers do. So that would be my charge, but that's a low international fee. The international speakers expect to get between 5,000 and 10,000 US dollars at the base rate, and some of them are charging a lot more. So it's much higher. All I've done in this comparison is look at local fees. I hope that answers the question. Do we have other questions here? Okay, Lee Harding says, look at a Hey mic, or look at a small unit like the Zoom voice recorder company with a lapel mic. Yes, okay. Just remember the voice, with Zoom, if you're talking about the same here, it comes in and out, and the audio is often more important than the video. So it's worth spending a few rand on a decent microphone. Do we have any other questions there, Ian?
Richard?
Yeah, who's calling? Yeah, Charlotte.
That's me. You're
Okay.
right. All right, so there are quite a few other questions here, but Louis asked, and somebody else has asked, how you go about setting up your own events. Maybe you can handle that as your last question. I'm sorry we can't get to all of them this time, but if you folks want to be in contact, I'm sure Richard won't mind if you drop him an email, and I have shared his email address, and his website is richardmulvey.biz, so you can contact him through that or through LinkedIn. Well, actually not through LinkedIn, because then you'll be talking to me. But Richard, if you can answer that last question, then we can tie things up.
All right.
So how do we go about setting up our own events?
All right, I'm going to go to the summary page, because that's exactly what I was going to talk about in the summary page. So I'll go back to my slides here, if I can, if you'll allow me to. I appreciate we're running out of time here, so I should be as quick as is appropriate. Okay. All right, quick summary. All right, what we talked about. Firstly, become a good speaker. Talked about that. You cannot do it without BNI, Rotary Roundtable, etc. If you're still zero fee, do all of those. You've got to have 3 gigs a week practicing your stuff. Then develop your products, your books, DVDs. You talked about that. Get that right. If you write a book, you become the author of the book, which means you are the authority on that subject. Pitch every day for something. Start pushing up your price now. It's the mindset that gets it right. Then set up your own gigs. It's your mindset that's holding you back. Then set up your own gigs. How do you do that? I mentioned what Nikki Bush does. Start in your own room. Start in your own lounge. You don't have to pay for anything. And market yourself to a dozen or 20 or 30 local people, businesses. Get them around there. Charlotte does futures masterminds at a very low fee. The idea is that she gets business leaders in a room. She talks to them about futures issues, but those are her next best clients. So you don't have to charge a lot for these things. I do a lot of email marketing. Email marketing is very powerful still. We thought email marketing was going to slow down and drift away, but in fact, it's still very powerful. And most of my business comes through email marketing, but you need the database to work with, which means you've got to build your own database, get lots of email addresses. You can't just buy a database and email everybody. You'll soon get blocked by your service provider. So start running your own gigs. And you know what? You'll get it right. If you want to contact me separately, I'd be very happy to share with you. But don't just email me saying, Richard, how do I do this? You email me and say, Richard, I'm planning to do it this way. What do you think? Don't just ask and wait to be told and fed. Tell me what you're going to do, and I'll tell you whether I think it's a good idea or not. And you know what? Sometimes you get much better ideas than I do. So it will be really good to hear your ideas. Join mastermind groups. Get them to come on board with you. Share the cost of setting up a gig, renting a room, marketing to your local businesses. Share the cost and have 2 or 3 speakers. We did this quite a lot with mastermind groups over the years. 2 or 3 speakers over a morning session, charge them 500-600 rand per person to come in. You don't have to buy them lunch or anything, just a morning session. 3 local speakers, your friends. Advertise it to your local businesses using emails, or get on the phone, cold calling people to come along and hear you speak. The more you do of this, the better you'll get at it, just the way it works. Do training, do events on your own, and it's all to do with bums on seats. Our business is all about getting audiences, and the more audiences you get, the better you get at your business, but also the more money you make. And finally, become famous if you can, because that's the shortcut to making money out of this business. And become famous. Climb Mount Everest. And like Ronnie, I don't know if Ronnie's here, but he talks about Everest climb. So go and climb Everest, then you become famous, then you can make lots of money. So let's forget about zero fee and increase your fee in stages. Maybe not double it yet, Chris, but keep pumping that fee up. You'll be amazed that once you get used to charging one fee, then you charge another fee and another higher fee. Keep it going. Folks, I hope you've enjoyed this session. Please email me if you have questions. Back to Charlotte.
Actually, it's back to me, Richard.
Okay.
No problem. So lots and lots of praise and thanks in the chat box. Well deserved. Thank you very, very much for sharing all of your expertise with us, Richard. And we're very, very grateful. There's lots and lots of people got so much value tonight. And we really appreciate everything that you put into it and sharing so freely that experience of yours. Thank you.
You're very welcome. I've enjoyed it. Thank you.
And for everybody else, if you're interested in learning more about the Professional Speakers Association of Southern Africa, the website is PSA Southern Africa, and you will also find under events information about the convention, which is coming up in 4 weeks' time. We're nearly there. It's getting there. Yeah, 12th, 13th, 14th of April. So hope to see you there. Looking forward to it. And otherwise, we'll see you same time next month for our next virtual chapter meeting.